Hello, greetings and welcome to this video. So today I'm going to talk about something that came up this week in one of my lessons. I'm an English teacher, not a non-dual teacher, just a normal English lesson. But it was with an advanced group, and in the book it was about artificial intelligence. There was some text about artificial intelligence to read and discuss. And we were talking about whether it was dangerous, the Matrix and Terminator and Skynet, whether it would wake up. And I asked a student, that it's an adult group, so they're adults, did she think that the brain produced consciousness? And she said, yes, of course. Now, yes is okay. I mean, fine, maybe it does. But the of course bit, I think that's what got to me. And I thought, in the videos that I've made so far, I've said that the whole idealism, materialism thing is not so important. There's bigger matters to look at. And I wasn't going to make a video about it, but I've decided just to clear this up. I'm going to explain how Bernardo Kastrup argues that the brain doesn't produce consciousness. So first of all, let's imagine you have a computer, maybe a laptop or something, and you access the computer, you access the internet with your computer, and there's a correlation between things that you can break on the computer and the experience that you have. So you break the speakers and then you get no sound. You break the screen and you get no vision, nothing to see. And if you break the computer completely, then there's no internet. But we know, because we know how the internet works, that the internet does continue. It's the same with the brain. The brain, clearly, if you destroy parts of the brain, the experience is altered. If you kill the person completely, it seems like the consciousness has gone. But that's just like saying, if you break the computer, you've destroyed the whole internet. Clearly, we know that you break the computer and the internet's still there. So it's a possibility that the brain works as a filter or some sort of conduit rather than producing consciousness. So there's definitely a correlation between the brain and conscious experience, but it doesn't mean that there's causation there. So the brain doesn't necessarily cause. So it's not of course. It might. We will see what the neuroscientists say. Now, of course, the common viewpoint is that the brain does produce consciousness, probably, but we don't know how yet. Now, this is called promissory materialism. So this is when science doesn't have an answer, and it says, well, you have to believe this with faith, and later we will discover the answer. We're sure that we're going to discover the answer. This is promissory materialism. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's not very scientific. Now, there are lots of neuroscientists who are actually starting to move away from the idea that the brain produces consciousness. This idea, this physicalism, we often call it materialism, but materialism can get confused with, the materialism of wanting to buy lots of, expensive things. So physicalism is the correct term. I'll use materialism or physicalism interchangeably. So the common viewpoint is that the brain produces consciousness, and most scientists believe this, yet they don't know how yet. Now, some neuroscientists, so we have David Chalmers and Christoph Koch, who are, and to some degree Ian McGilchrist, are moving away from materialism. David Chalmers put forward this problem, the hard problem of consciousness. It's actually a reformulation of an ancient philosophical problem of why we have subjective experience. Everything in the brain can be explained. This is the easy problem of consciousness. So the easy problem of consciousness is how the brain works, and this will be completely discovered by science. One day, every single bit of the brain will be completely defined, and they'll know how it all works, and just like a computer. And that's the easy problem of consciousness. The hard problem of consciousness is, why do we have a subjective experience? Because the brain could just work like a machine. The fact that we have a first-person viewpoint cannot be explained, and will never be explained. The reason for this, there's many reasons, but one is that it's a category error in philosophy. So you're asking how a subjective experience can be produced by objects in the objective world. So the objects somehow produce a subject. This doesn't work and won't work. It can't be done. Now, so this hard problem of consciousness, why we have a subjective experience, some people say, well, for evolution. So the brain got very complex, and developed some type of conscious experience, some type of subjective experience. And because of this subjective experience, it was able to make decisions better. So it was able to reproduce and survive better. So therefore the genes went on, and those genes, the consciousness got better and better, and that's where it came from. Now, but in neuroscience, we can see that when somebody makes a decision in their conscious mind, this is actually, the decision has already been made in the brain, in sentient cold matter, dead matter. It's not really dead because it's living, but it's not conscious. Is this like clockwork machine has made the decision, and then you just get this information, this epiphenomenon. We have all the senses go to our brain, and all of this is produced in the sensorium. That's what they call this, and all of this is apparently helped us in an evolution to survive and to reproduce. But if it's true that the choice can be seen in the brain before we actually experience making the choice, then that means that there's no causal link. There's no causal effect from our experience to the brain. We are just seeing an after effect. It's like it's being reported back to us. And if there's no causal link from our conscious experience to make decisions and to choose and to do this and do that, or not do this, avoid this, if it doesn't affect the brain, then we wouldn't have evolved it. There's no reason for the brain to produce such a complex representation of the outside world inside our heads if it would have just done it, if it makes the decisions itself already. Now, it can be seen as a epiphenomenon. So everything's just running, and it just happened that this thing just woke up because of complexity. Now, Bernardo Kastrup argues against this idea that complexity can result in waking up, in a subjective experience suddenly appearing out of the complexity. He gives the example of a centipede. So you put more and more legs on a centipede, it won't suddenly start to fly. This waking up is a miracle. In fact, there's nothing in the material world which would suggest that this would actually happen. Now, because of this, materialism needs two miracles to explain the world. The first miracle is, why does anything exist at all? They say, oh, the Big Bang made it. Yeah, but where did the Big Bang come from? Oh, well, quantum foam popping in and out of existence. Yes, but where did the quantum foam, where did the whole system come from? It's a miracle. And yes, it's a miracle. All this is here. It's what happened? I don't know. But then they need a second miracle that then the matter woke up and became conscious for no real reason. Now, in idealism, so this idealism is philosophical idealism. It's not like idealism about ideals and quality and preferences and what you think is good, morality, that kind of idealism, or ideals. This is talking about, it's a philosophical idealism. So it's saying that everything is mental, made of mind. And this is a long history, but Bernardo Kastrup is promoting this. He's got his form of idealism, analytic idealism. And in this, we see that everything is mind. Now, okay, so we need the first miracle. Why does everything exist? But the second miracle, how the consciousness is created, is not necessary. So idealism requires less assumptions, less miracles to actually explain our experience. So it's more parsimonious. Now, so everything is mind, and he has he explains this through a metaphor of there's a pilot, you're flying an aeroplane and you've got dials on your dashboard and you can't see outside the aeroplane, but the dials give you information of what's outside. Now, on the inside there's mind, on the outside there's more mind, and what we see as the physical world are representations of the mind that look like they're matter to us, look like they're physical, and we can touch them and things like that. But they're giving us information of the world outside this restriction. Now, this restriction, you could say, so in idealism, one of the problems that people put against it is that why are we, if everything's mind, why are we separate? So why do I have my mind and you have your mind, and I can't access your thoughts? It's all mind. Why can't I read your mind? And Bernardo Kastrup says that we see this in medicine, in how people with dissociative identity disorder, DID, which used to be called multiple personality disorder, they have these different personalities within them that are called alters. And these alters don't have access to the thoughts of the other alters. And they can actually, they've reported seeing the alters within their dreams. So one alter, one personality, can tell the therapist that they've seen the other alter in the dream. And when the therapist speaks to that alter, speaks to that personality, they can report seeing the other alter. So it's inside the person's mind at night. They have these separate individual personalities and separate subjective viewpoints. So it's similar to what he explains is going on here. So there is the universal mind, and we are limitations, we are disassociations of the mind at large, and that's why we can't access other people's thoughts, just like as happens in what we'd say the real world with this disorder. Now, another argument is why can't I make it rain? And you would say, because everything's my mind, why can't I control the universe with my mind? And that would be just because in a dream, like in a dream, you can't control the dream. I can't control my dreams. Some people can have lucid dreams, and yes, they can fly and they can do incredible things, but I can't. And I think a lot of dreams you can't. And it's just like that. Just because you're it's all mind, it doesn't mean that within a dream that you can make the dream do what you want. No, it does exactly what you don't want. Now, some of the more reasons why the brain is probably a filter rather than producing consciousness is, so one argument is on that when we do things to the brain that reduce its effectiveness, such as take psychedelics, apnea, for pilots who are under great G-force, so the blood gets pushed out of their head and their brain is, it's got no blood in it, so they pass out. And also near-death experiences where the brain has stopped, brain function has stopped completely, or and they come back with vivid descriptions. Now, the pilots also come back with vivid descriptions. These have not, you can't really study this very scientifically, but they have studied the psychedelics, and they can see that there is just parts of the brain get suppressed. There is no stimulation of the brain, as much as we might imagine that you take these, LSD or something, and you have this very vivid experience because your brain is super stimulated. But no, it's the opposite. It's actually being blocked or being shut down, and yet you have a more vivid experience. And if you have a more vivid experience when the brain is working less, then that implies that the brain is actually filtering your consciousness rather than producing the consciousness. Now, David Chalmers and a lot of scientists, they have to give up, they're giving up the idea that the brain produces consciousness. But they don't want to completely give up on the way we've been thinking about the mind, for the brain for so long, which is a good idea. Don't reject it immediately. So they go for panpsychism, and panpsychism is basically that it gets around the problem of how does the brain produce consciousness, because they say that consciousness is in every subatomic particle. So everything is conscious. Matter, part of matter, is actually consciousness. So when so everything is consciousness, so nothing produces consciousness. It kind of exists with the matter. Now, the problem they face is why, it's called the combination problem, is why we have separate, how do all these little consciousnesses come together to be a big consciousness that I am and you are, and why is it my consciousness and your consciousness, it's not shared consciousness, and there's all these problems with that. So idealism gets past all these problems. Now, okay, so I think I've made the point. I'm not really sure. I'd just like to say that at the end of the day, this is really not so important. It could be important if you want to realize that you're not going to die, because certainly if the brain produces consciousness, then when the brain dies, your consciousness dies. But this is just a representation. So it's like turning off the TV screen. The person on the other side of the Zoom call on your computer monitor will still be there. You're not killing them. In fact, that just before I have to make another point. So people say, well, I take a drug and that affects my brain. Now, Bernardo Kastrup says that this is all mental anyway. These are just representations of a mental experience. So when you take a drug, that is mental. It's a mental thing. And then your brain is a mental thing, a representation of a mental thing. These are just representations on our dashboard of subjective experience or of something mental, maybe not something disassociated. He says that life is what disassociation looks like, but this is just mental affecting mental. Now, anyway, I'll get back to that. So if you accept idealism, then we don't die. We continue after the body continues, and in fact, we are everything. There is only one subjective viewpoint in everything. It's just one thing looking out of everybody's eyes. One thing, the universal mind looking out, and this thing never goes. Now, however, this is useful, yeah, and it gets us past some of the materialist objections to spiritual things. But it's not really essential. If you look at Zen Buddhism, they don't try to make any metaphysical claims. They just observe what's happening. And really, as also David Bohm said this, that the question of whether everything is mind or matter, there are bigger questions that we need to address. And that's what I'm interested in doing in these, in my exploration and the stuff that I'm telling you about in these videos. So it's not really just about idealism against materialism. It's something much deeper than that. Even if we do accept idealism, everything's mind, at some point we have to accept that, well, mind is just existence itself, or existence and non-existence. So it's something that's even deeper than any sort of concept of a mind would be. So there you go. I hope that was clear. I'm not sure if it was, but thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.